Well, hello, it's Robert again. It's good to be back with you. It's been a little while, hope not too long. But I wanted to share a few of my old country LPs, records with you, talk about them a little bit. And right now I got a little bit of the old Tennessee Ernie Ford playing in the background. It's from the old Capitol LP of 16 tons, featuring a lot of his early 50s numbers. I'm going to start off though today with about three 10-inch LPs I picked up. Actually, they were store stock, so they're like brand new. This one is Hank Snow sings Jimmie Rodgers, salutes Jimmie Rodgers. Jimmy the Kid, Southern Cannonball, Anniversary, Blue Yodel, and a number of others with Hank's fine guitar work as Rainbow Ranch Boys. It was an LP, 10-inch LP recorded back in '53. Very nice album. He gave nice arrangements to the old Jimmie Rodgers classics. And also picked up at that time, Hank Snow Sings. This came out around '52 and featured Zeb Turney's Gal, Golden River, Yodeling Cowboy, My Little Golden Horseshoe. Again, it's a classic 50s Hank Snow with the Rainbow Ranch Boys sound. And also picked up mid-50s release. There were a few other releases of Jimmie Rodgers, 10-inch LPs. This is one from the mid-50s. Had Mule Skinner Blues, In the Jailhouse Now #2, Traveling Blues, Peach Picking Time Down in Georgia, and others. Now to get to a few 12-inch albums, this was released in the 70s. Lulabelle and Scotty, early and great. Old Homestead was not noted for real great sound quality, but every once in a while they hit it nice on an LP. This one they did, and this has a number of their late 30s, early 40s numbers of that Crazy War, Mountain Dew, From Jerusalem to Jericho, Sugar Babe, Get Along Home Sydney. So they're real nice because sometimes Lulabelle and Scotty could go into a little popish area, like they did with Have I Told You Lately That I Love You and Remember Me. Scotty was an excellent songwriter, but they also played a lot in mountain music style or close to bluegrass style. Scotty was a right fine banjo player, and this features a number of those recordings. From the late 50s came a nice album by the Louvin Brothers. They did a tribute to the Delmore Brothers, did a lot of their songs. They admired them. It shows a picture of Ira with the mandolin. There's no mandolin playing on here. Actually, Ira was able to take Raven's guitar, restring it, and he used it on this LP. Very nice recording, very simple country style numbers. One of my favorites from the early 50s sound was Faron Young. Faron Young kind of went through a lot of different styles through his time in country music, but I love what he did in the early and mid 50s. He had a steel player by the name of Joe Vincent. Gordon Terry played fiddle behind him. And this has a number of the hits of that time of Live Fast, Live Hard, Die Young, Going Steady, It's a Great Life, For the Love of a Woman Like You, I Got $5 in a Saturday Night. This is just classic Faron Young all the way. There's a nice group in the back in the 40s. I've got some of their LPs on King. Was it York Brothers? York Brothers also did some R&B numbers, country style. And this has Blue River, Pretty Little Thing, Two Sides Every Story, Mr. Midnight, and some others. But if you can get any of the York Brothers, they're pretty nice albums. And this is one of the King released 3 LPs that had 16 songs each on them. And this is a fine album from the old King days. From 1964, it's one of my favorite Osborne Brothers albums, Sonny and Bob. Take This Hammer was on it, Pathway of Teardrops, a version of Kentucky, The Cuckoo Bird, the instrumental bugle on the banjo is a really good solid straight bluegrass sound with their good singing from Sonny and Bob. And then we have Wilmerly and Stony Cooper. County Records released this back in the late 70s, early recordings. These are all early 50s numbers. A lot of their songs from that era were hard to find on LPs over the years. A very nice period of Wilmerly and Stony Cooper. Their bigger hits were on Hickory Records in the late 50s. Early 50s, it was more of a straight mountain sound. What was a very nice addition was Buck Graves on the dobro. Of course, he played with Flatt and Scruggs a little later. But you get that style, and you get Sunny Side of the Mountain, West Virginia Polka, Can You Forgive, You Tried to Ruin My Name, and some others. Very nice Wilmerly and Stony Cooper and the Clinch Mountain Clan. And then we have from Rebel, there's an early 70s bluegrass man. don't hear too much about nowadays was the Roy McMillan and the High Country Boys. Nice recording of Cold Wind, and they made about 3 LPs for Rebel Records in the very early 70s. Had a little regional popularity, not real big, but they made some very nice recordings, and this is the first, I think, of their LPs. We got an old Star Day. He was a Grand Ole Opry favorite during the 40s, Robert Lund. And he used to play and travel with the Roy Acuff show as well. He was known for Talking Blues, which that's on here. This is an album he made around 59 or 60, I believe. He used the Smoky Mountain Boys, Oswald and Howdy Forrester, and Jimmy Riddle as his backup. This was the only LP he made. He made a couple 78s in the 40s on Mercury, and most of the things you might hear were on the radio. But he was fairly popular on the Grand Ole Opry. This is a very nice album all the way around. If you could ever find it, it's very hard to find, but nice Robert Lund album. Then we got a very scarce Red Savine. Red Savine was noted in the 60s for truck driving songs a lot. He recorded good honky-tonk country in the early 50s for MGM, and then went to Decca, and he made a lot of nice recordings in that era. My particular favorite was The Intoxicated Rat, who sounded like Shot Jackson on the steel in back of him. That's on here, along with Sundown Sue, Please Don't Let Me Love You, and Billy Goat Boogie, and some others. Nice 50s sound of Red Savine. The Bear Family actually released a nice CD combining a lot of his old MGM recordings and Decca recordings. Let's see, then we have Jimmie Rodgers. They released 7 albums from the mid-50s to early 60s. This was the last one released, and trying to cover his entire career. My Time Ain't Long, this was the songs they had left. This is what they put them on here. That's where the Jimmie Rodgers and the Carter Family were together. That is on here, along with Gambling Polka Dot Blues, Mother Was a Lady, My Time Ain't Long, Mystery of Number 5, and some others. Every album of Jimmie Rodgers was good, and this was the last one of their original releases of that time. Then we got a nice one. This has been reissued some. Carter Family. This was their Decca material, which they recorded on Decca from about 37 to 38. And Hello Stranger was on here, My Dixie Darling, Stern Old Bachelor. They had a very nice sound on Decca. Some have said they felt the Deccas were the best recordings. I probably would go with the early 30s Victor recordings, but whatever you get of the Carter Family through the years, these are good. And then we have, this is a bluegrass band I liked very much and bought their albums as it came out. It was the Johnson Mountain Boys. It came in the late 70s, went through the 80s a little bit, into the early 90s. Dudley Connell, Eddie Stubbs was their fiddle player, who of course later on worked down at Grand Ole Opry. They had a nice, exciting sound to their bluegrass. They had a sharp look to them too. They just looked good when they were on stage. Probably their most popular recording on here is Let the Whole World Talk. That got a bit popular at the time. They played that a lot. They had twin fiddles on that song. And almost any album is worth a good listen of them. They had a really good sound at that time. So then we go back again to the mid-50s with the Furlin Husky album. Capitol hardly released any of the early Furlin Husky. Most of the LPs are of a country pop sound. This is still in his earlier country style of songs of the home and heart. He made a number of fine recordings on Capitol back in the early and mid-50s. And some of them also made their way to an album a little later called The Hits of Furlin Husky. But other than that, the older songs of his style are hard to find. But there's quite a few jumpy, pre-rockabilly type numbers. And not too much on here, but on what he put out on singles. And he put out some pretty good stuff in the early and mid-50s. This was the first of his Capitol LPs. And then from County Records, we have Mountain Blues. These are recordings from basically the 20s and 30s. And Frank Hutchison, who was a good slide guitarist, with Cannonball Blues on here, Narmer and Smith, Carroll County Blues, loved Sam McGee's Railroad Blues. And you can even look on YouTube and see him still playing that in the 60s on the, I think, Wilburn Brothers TV show. But he's still, that was a good guitar number. This is the original one here from 1934. So all in all, a good listen from the top country music of that time. And speaking of Bear Family, this was an album they come out with some years ago, Gene Autry. It's a picture disc. And the picture is kind of misleading because you think, well, I'm getting some of the Gene Autry Western stuff of the 40s he made, which there's some pretty good stuff there. But this album actually is a release of his early 30s of Victor material. So his original of Yellow Rose of Texas, High Steppin' Mama, Bearcat Papa Blues, Money Ain't No Use Anyway. This is the early Gene Autry, which a lot of collectors actually love. And Bear Family put out a nice CD box set on those recordings years ago. But this is early Gene Autry, very good listen. Let's see, then we got Best of Charlie Monroe. This is a Japan release from the late 60s, and where his Victor stuff, I love his Victor stuff of the 40s and early 50s. I'm Coming Back But I Don't Know When is on here. Down in the Willow Garden, So Blue, Good Morning to You, Bringing in the Georgia Mail. This is all top quality. The sound quality is outstanding on this. But it's a nice, good Charlie Monroe, 16 songs on it. And listen to that old Charlie Monroe and the Kentucky Partner sound. And then we have here in early 60s, Charlie Moore and Bill Napier release on King. And called The Best Of. Kind of, I think, an odd title. Usually Best Ofs were when people have been recording a while and then kind of put some of their hits on an LP. This was like the first, one of the first LP releases of Charlie Moore and Bill Napier. So, and they just called it The Best Of, but it is a fine album. Their version of Barbara Allen, Chain Gang, I've Got Over You, I'm Giving You Your Freedom, Goodbye and So Long to You. Very nice recordings featuring Charlie Moore, who was singing, who was an excellent singer, and they made a number of fine albums for King, and this is certainly a fine listen. And then last but not least, this is a tough Audiolab album to get. It's one of the harder to get country ones. But if you haven't ever heard of Rocky Bill Ford, you need to give a good listen to him. This was a release on the Audiolab of him. He recorded in the early 50s. His records appeared on the Gilt Edge label and a couple on the 4-Star. And Beer Drinking Blues was probably his most popular one. That came out in 51. I have that on 78 as well. But he had a very nice sound. His singing had a little deeper voice. Not quite like Ernest Tubb, but going in that direction. Plus he made a rockabilly single for Starday Records. But he was a very nice recording artist back in the early years in the 50s. So this album is certainly worth a fine listen as well. But it's like trying to get hen's teeth to get it. And this happens to be a near mint copy. So wanted to share those. That's what I have for today. I will look forward to getting with you again in the near future and pulling out a few others. I have probably 1,500 of just old country alone, as well as many 78s, EPs. 78s is kind of hard to put on a little display with and show because you're just looking at the label, but certainly can do that as well. But anyway, really appreciate you listening, taking your time out and dropping by, and look forward to your comments. Please enjoy your day, enjoy your families, and we'll get with you again soon. So this is Robert saying so long for now. Bye now.